Hey, folks. Thank you for being patient with me as I was away for 2 weeks. Life has been so crazy. Let me tell you, recording a podcast and staying on top of it is not always easy when you have a full time job and also a side job, and you're on vacation. And I really wanted to record the last 2 weeks of episodes in advance, but it didn't happen. So I'm here now, but I have come back from a wonderful trip in Barcelona, and it was a mix of partying and dancing, as well as being a tourist and seeing beautiful sights, seeing the Gaudi sites. And I got to go with my boyfriend, whom if you follow me on Instagram, you see my boyfriend, and we just had a really really lovely time. And this year has definitely been a year of a lot of travel, and I want to say something about that in manifestation. I, for the last couple years, told myself that I would not travel for a bit. But this year, life has made it possible to travel. And travel is, even though I told myself I would stop traveling, I had this vision in my head that in the future I would be traveling a lot. And this year I've traveled a lot. Um, so manifestation can work in some ways. Other parts of my life are not very easy or as easy, and that's okay. That's life. But I'm enjoying the travel in that part of life while I can, while I have it, while I have the opportunity and the ability to do that. So I want to talk about unconditional love. Unconditional love is really tricky. And a lot of us have some fantasies about unconditional love and what it means, where it shows up in our lives. Let's first define what is unconditional love. It is love without condition. It's loving someone or something regardless of the cons, in terms of pros and cons, regardless of the cons of who they are, or what they are, regardless of their faults. It's loving someone no matter what they say or do. You love them no matter what. Now, is it possible to love somebody completely or deeply love somebody and also not want them in your life? Absolutely. Because those are sometimes the hardest decisions we make. That's when a breakup happens. That's when people, now the term is no contact, right? And I have no opinion on going no contact. I'm just stating a fact that there are people who decide to go no contact with family or with some friends. And perhaps in some of those cases, they love their family member, but they don't feel healthy being around them, or the dynamic is not healthy when they are around each other, right? So I think it's possible to love somebody deeply and yet not be able to include them in your life. So is that unconditional love? I'm not sure. I guess in that case, you are loving them with the condition that they are not in your life. That can get really confusing. I'm no psychologist, so don't quote me on that scenario, or don't measure my accuracy. I'm trying to capture that scenario. But maybe it's possible to love unconditionally yet from afar. I don't know. I personally haven't experienced that. But just for the sake of this conversation, unconditional love is loving someone no matter what, or loving something no matter what. Religion, particularly my Christian upbringing, is the first place I heard the term unconditional love, because it's usually used to describe the quality of God, capital God. Religion teaches unconditional love sometimes. I'm getting over a cold. I feel like this is the second time this year I've had a cold on this podcast. So religion teaches unconditional love, but my upbringing in Christianity, particularly Catholicism and Protestantism, taught a God who actually loves with condition. They said God loves unconditionally, but it never made sense to me how God can love you unconditionally, but if you don't believe in him or you don't follow him, you will go to hell. But he loves you, as George Carlin used to joke. He'll send you to hell, to fire and brimstone, but he loves you. One of my favorite comedic monologues and parts of stand-up I've ever seen. Go watch it. George Carlin, God in Hell. It's funny. Because it's true. Why preach about this unconditionally loving God if the condition for you going to heaven is if you follow him, right? If God loves someone unconditionally, someone who doesn't follow him, wouldn't God welcome them into heaven anyways? There's the contradiction. So religion, for many people, is the first place where they hear the term unconditional love. And when there is this contradiction about what that belief is, about God being unconditionally loving, it's confusing. And I think it can distort how we view love as a human quality. Because if we're being real, the way that we are describing God as love is describing God with a quality that we're familiar with. We are familiar with how we feel love. But God is way bigger than that. So religion is a beautiful thing, but it can't completely capture the essence of God on its own. And we won't even know the essence of God completely until we are in the afterlife. We can feel some of it here, but our physical bodies they help create this illusion we have that we are in this physical world, right? This experience of being in the physical world is like a barrier, a needed barrier, because we're here to be separate in some ways from the afterlife, from the 100% complete God energy, so we can experience what is not God. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole. So we cannot fully capture the unconditional loving nature of God. So when religion tries to do it, sometimes the best, closest thing they can get to describing it, is the love of a parent, a human parent. And a human parent will likely love with condition. Sometimes. Many parents do love with conditions set. Some parents love unconditionally. Does that make any sense, or am I going crazy? Let's go into the next thing. Maybe it will help. Let's talk about some myths surrounding unconditional love. So we're going to talk about romance, family, friendship. Let's start with family, because I started going down that rabbit hole, that tangent. My personal belief is that good parents love their children wholeheartedly. Love their children no matter what. Now, if I'm a parent and my child decides to, trigger warning, violence, okay? My child decides to take someone else's life. I'm not a parent. I can only imagine that must be the hardest thing to go through, because you love your child, but I would be so angry at my child for doing something like that, right? So would I love my child the same if they did that? I don't know. I'm sure that you see your child differently after something like that. Or if your child bullies someone, or if your child does something heinous to somebody else, something terrible to somebody else. How do you view your child? And from what I've read and what I've heard, there are parents who do continue loving their children, but they also make the decision to set a boundary and make sure their children, or their child faces the consequence of their action. Is that unconditional love? I don't think so. And I'm not saying that it should be unconditional love. I'm just saying unconditional love from a parent in a family, it's not easy to achieve. It's not easy to embody, depending on what the situation or the dynamic in the family is. And I think everything is always a balance, right? I think the goal in a family should be wholehearted love, acceptance of the child for who they are. But sometimes with family, boundaries do need to be set, whether from the children to the parents or the parents to the children. That can happen. So it's therefore not unconditional love, in my opinion. Let's talk about romance next. This is where we have drunk the Kool-Aid in our culture regarding relationship and romance, because so much in our culture makes us believe that our partners should love us unconditionally. Now, a partner can love someone unconditionally. I'm not saying they should not, but I'm not saying they should either. It shouldn't be an expectation because we're never going to 100% love everything about our partner. It's not common. The fairy tales say that. There's always going to be something that maybe hits on our nerves a little bit or drives us a little crazy. So, this idea of a knight in shining armor, this perfect person coming to sweep us off our feet and fix everything and be the yin to our yang, it's never going to be that perfect. Yin to yang, sure, but a perfect yin to yang, not always. And sometimes the differences that make us wonderful as a couple, that make you and your partner wonderful as a couple, could be the things that also grind your gears once in a while, and that's okay. Now, I've told somebody that I'm starting to unconditionally love them, and I was surprised that I had told them that. But I think it's because I feel that I love them no matter what they do. But then I think about it. Wait, but what if they did this? Would I still love them? I Maybe I was just speaking impulsively, but I do feel like it's possible in a romantic relationship to feel such a deep love that whether they're with you or decide to break up with you, whether they do something you don't like that doesn't affect you or doesn't hurt anybody, but something you don't like, that you can still love them. You can still deeply love them. I think that's pretty close to unconditional love. But then I think about, well, if someone that I'm dating did X, Y, Z, I'm thinking of the worst things in the world, I probably wouldn't love them anymore because I would see a very different side to them that I didn't fall in love with. So I am totally dumping on my own feelings right now that I impulsively shared with a partner. I I'm all over the place. And this is how confusing unconditional love can be. Is there truly love without condition? No, there isn't. Not in the human world, which I'll get to in a moment. So family, and relationship, it's possible to love deeply, love so deeply that there's almost nothing they can do that can change that. But I feel like there will always be one or two things that someone can do that will make you go, oh no, no. That's my personal opinion. If you disagree, let me know in the comments or let me know in an email. But I think there is always going to be a condition. There are always some things just have to set boundaries around. Okay? Friendships. Pretty similar conversation. Friendships. I've had some friendships where I felt loved for who I am completely, even with my faults. I have a good friend now whom I feel loves me no matter what. But I also know that if I did one or two things that would really, really upset him, he wouldn't want to be my friend anymore either. And vice versa. So I don't think purely unconditional love can happen in friendships either. So you're probably thinking, well, what the hell? What is it about unconditional love that is, number one, so special, and how can I access it? If I can't find it in the human world, in my romantic relationship, in my family, in my friendships, then where can I access it? And why is it worth accessing if I can't find it in these kinds of relationships? I'll tell you where you can find it. And no, that's not a threat. I really mean it. I'll tell you. You can find it in your loved ones in spirit and in God, your higher power, the universe, source. On the other side, there is only God, and God is love. On the other side are your loved ones. When we pass into the afterlife, we become part of all that is. We go back to being in the ocean of God. Whereas before, we were only seeing ourselves as a crest in the wave of the ocean. Now we see ourselves as the ocean, as all that is. And with that state of being, we are now love, period. And because we don't have our physical bodies, we don't have our egos. And all we know on the other side is pure love, unconditional love. When I've done mediumship readings, I have never, ever had a spirit come through telling a client, you must do this to make me happy. You should do this if you love us. Ever. Ever. Now, there may be some mediums out there who read differently, who get different kinds of messages that are very different from that, the opposite of that. But I don't know. I believe that our belief systems as mediums shape how we interpret the information that comes through from the other side. And my belief is that there is only unconditional love, and what I get from the other side in readings is just that, unconditional love. They don't need anything from us to make them happy. They don't. Anything we do for them is actually more for us and less for them. It's our way of honoring them, paying tribute to them, so we can foster our relationship with them. But they don't need that from us. We're doing that for ourselves and our relationship with them. They don't need us to do anything to get them closer to us. We're doing things to remind us that we're already close to them. That's what those tributes are for. That's what the homages are for. The prayers to them, the little ceremony you do at the lake for your grandma years after she passed. Those are things we do for our relationship with them, not to get them closer. So they don't need anything from us. That is unconditional love. And I'm going to say it. We could be the worst person in the world, and our loved ones still love us unconditionally, and God still loves us unconditionally. It's a kind of love that we cannot find on this physical plane, because we are in these bodies that judge other people, these bodies that want to protect what is ours, rightfully so. But on the other side, there's no need to protect anything, because we are just the energy that is love. There's no need to fear. There's no fear at all. And as you might know already, I don't believe in hell. So I believe in a plane of existence that is decidedly, keyword, decidedly separate from heaven on the other side. Yes, I believe that we can choose where we go on the other side, either staying stuck, which is our decision to be stuck and separate from the other side, or rather separate from the light on the other side, or in the light. I believe it is our decision as a soul once we pass. Outside of that, I don't believe in a hell. I don't believe that we get punished for who we are or what we do in this lifetime. I believe God, who only knows unconditional love, which is what I was taught in Christian schools, and that I do believe wholeheartedly, welcomes all into the gates of heaven, welcomes all into the beautiful afterlife. And our loved ones are there. And I have channeled loved ones for people who were not known as the best people on this planet. We're not known as the best kind of people to their families and friends. But they're on the other side with God. And they are learning lessons, but they are not punished. Because now that they are in this space of unconditional love, and they know the feeling of unconditional love, they can compare their life on earth to what they're experiencing now in the afterlife. They can compare their life on earth to the unconditional love that they're feeling now in the afterlife. And that's where the lessons come in. That's where they learn their lessons. Unconditional love. This unconditional love exists in the afterlife. And sometimes when we meditate, when we pray, when we are in nature, or when we experience something where we feel like we are close to God or close to everything that is, we can feel a dose of that unconditional love. A dose of it. And it's a beautiful feeling. Imagine if you just feel that dose for that short meditation or that short walk in the park. Imagine how it feels being on the other side. But I want to tell you something. We're not meant to be on the other side right now. We're meant to be here. As annoying as it is sometimes to be here, present on this earth, we are here because our soul wants to learn contrast. Our soul wants to experience it. Our soul wants to experience difference, because that's the way the soul grows. And the harder we make it for ourselves here on this planet to try and emulate the unconditional love in small doses, I feel like the less fulfilled we are. When we approach our careers, our relationships from a place of love, we are channeling some of that unconditional love, a little dose of it, through the way we're living. And that's where we feel fulfilled. And it shows up differently for different people. It shows up as someone is an artist, someone is a doctor, someone is a baseball player. Everyone is channeling that love in different ways, but we can channel the unconditional love in these small doses when we listen to the true essence of who we are, which is love. When we listen to what it is our soul calls us to do. So unconditional love, we can tap into it in doses when we are living our truth, when we are, even when we're setting boundaries with people. Isn't that ironic? Don't you think? If you know, you know. If you know the lyrics. Maybe by setting some conditions in our relationships, those boundaries, we are living our truth. And by living our truth, we are living in love. I think I just blew my own mind because I don't understand what I just said. And I don't even know if it makes any sense. I don't think it makes any sense. But there's something to that. And life is full of contradictions. Life is full of dichotomies. You can't have the darkness without having the light. You can't have hot without cold. As opposite as these things are. And maybe you can't have love in the physical world without some boundaries. But unconditional love is the underlying current of it all. If we're operating from an unconditional love, from God's love, then we are going to live for our truths and live for ourselves. There's this phrase that my therapist has taught me. Rule number 1, be fair to yourself. Rule number 2, be fair to others. Those two things happen together, not separate. Before I go down what seems like a crazy, crazy rabbit hole and making no sense, I'm going to stop the podcast here. Have you ever experienced unconditional love? Have you ever felt unconditional love from somebody? And did it last a long time? I want to know about it. I'll see you on next week's episode. Take care. This podcast is really about helping you trust your own intuition and step into your power. If you'd like to work with me directly, you can learn more at juanfrancisco.co. That's juanfrancisco.co. And please remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend.